The Quantum Betrayal. The skies of Meridian Prime burned crimson as the hegemony warships descended through the atmosphere. No warning had been given, no declaration of hostilities, just the sudden, devastating rain of plasma fire upon the crystalline cities below. Ambassador Thala stood frozen at the viewing window of the Meridian High Council chamber, her iridescent scales reflecting the hellish glow of her burning world. The slender Meridian's 4 arms trembled as she watched another city district collapse under orbital bombardment. "Why?" she whispered. "We have done nothing to provoke this." First Counselor Nerif approached, his normally luminous blue scales now dull with shock and grief. "The hegemony has always resented our alliance with Earth. They believe we have shared too much technology with the humans." Thala turned to face her superior. That was the purpose of the alliance. Mutual exchange and growth. The humans have given us as much as we've given them. "The hegemony does not see it that way," Nerith said. "They have always feared humanity's potential. Now they seek to eliminate what they perceive as a threat, beginning with humanity's closest allies." The council chamber shuddered as a blast struck nearby. Crystalline fragments rained from the ceiling. "We need to evacuate," urged Defense Minister Zoral, rushing into the chamber. "Our planetary shields are failing. The capital will be targeted next." "Where can we go?" Nerif asked. "The hegemony controls all regional jump points." Zoral's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of Meridian distress. "We have one option left. I've prepared a quantum-encrypted distress signal to Earth." "Earth?" Thala's voice caught. "Their fleet is still rebuilding after the Proxima conflict. Even if they wanted to help, they couldn't stand against the hegemony's armada." "We have no choice," Nerif decided. "Send the signal. The humans are our only hope." As the transmission was sent into the void, Thala couldn't help but wonder if they were merely dragging their allies into the same destruction that now consumed Meridian Prime. 14 light-years away on Earth, Admiral Jackson Chen stood in the Strategic Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching in horror as the fragmented transmission from Meridian Prime played on the main screen. Under attack without warning. Ambassador Thala's image flickered, interspersed with static. "Hegemony forces. Thousands dead. Please. Alliance." The transmission cut to black. Chen turned to the assembled Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense. "We need to mobilize immediately. The Meridians are being slaughtered." Defense Secretary Rivera shook her head. "Admiral, I understand your concern, but we need to be realistic. The hegemony fleet outnumbers ours 6-1. Their weapons technology is at least a generation ahead of ours. If we engage, we risk not just defeat but annihilation." "So we do nothing?" Chen demanded. "The Meridians have been our most loyal allies for 20 years. They shared their quantum communication technology when we needed it most during the Mars colony crisis. They provided medical aid during the Brisbane pandemic. And now we abandon them." "I'm not saying we abandon them," Rivera countered. "But we need a measured response. Diplomatic channels." "The hegemony isn't interested in diplomacy," interrupted General Okafor. "This is a calculated move. They're eliminating the Meridians to isolate Earth. We'll be next." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "How quickly can we assemble the fleet?" asked the Secretary of Defense. "Finally. 12 hours for our primary battle group," Chen replied. "But even at maximum burn, it would take us 5 days to reach Meridian space. By which time it might be too late," Rivera said softly. "Not necessarily." All heads turned toward the door where Commander Elena Reyes stood. Though small in stature, her presence commanded attention. A reputation earned from 3 decisive victories during the Proxima conflict. "Commander Reyes," Chen acknowledged. "You have something to add." "Yes, Admiral. The Meridians recently shared their experimental quantum folding technology with our R&D division. It's still in testing, but it could potentially reduce our travel time to 18 hours. Rivera frowned. That technology was deemed too unstable for deployment. For mass transport, yes, Rise agreed. But our newest destroyer, the UES Defiant, has been retrofitted with a quantum fold drive. It's smaller, more agile, and the risk would be contained to one vessel. What are you suggesting, Commander? Chen asked, though he suspected he already knew. Let me take the Defiant ahead of the main fleet. I can assess the situation, coordinate with any Meridian survivors, and potentially disrupt the hegemony's attack until reinforcements arrive. That's a suicide mission, Okafor stated flatly. Rice didn't flinch. Perhaps, but every hour we delay means thousands more Meridian civilians die. And they're dying because of their alliance with us. Chen studied the commander carefully. Elena Reyes had a reputation for unconventional tactics and taking calculated risks, but she wasn't reckless. If she believed there was a chance, then maybe. What about the Concordia Protocol? Rivera asked quietly. The room tensed. The Concordia Protocol was Earth's last resort defensive measure, a network of quantum-linked mines placed strategically throughout human-controlled space. Once activated, they could theoretically destabilize any ship's drive system within their area of effect. They had never been used in actual combat. The protocol was designed for defensive purposes within our territory, Chen reminded them. Using it in hegemony space would be an unprecedented escalation. They massacred an entire civilian population without warning, Rice countered. I'd say the escalation has already occurred. Secretary Rivera walked slowly to the central display, studying the last clear image of Meridian Prime, its beautiful crystal cities glowing against the night side of the planet. Now many of those cities burned. How many Meridians on the planet? She asked softly. Approximately 4 billion, Chen answered. Their evacuation capabilities are limited. Conservative estimates suggest casualties already in the millions. Rivera closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her decision was made. Admiral Chen, you have authorization to deploy the fleet in defense of our Meridian allies. Commander Rice, you have provisional approval for your advance mission, pending a full operational plan within the hour. She turned to face the room. Make no mistake, this may well lead to full-scale war with the hegemony. But if we allow them to destroy our allies without consequence, we not only dishonor ourselves, we signal to the galaxy that Earth can be isolated and targeted next. Chen nodded grimly. We'll be ready. As the meeting disbanded, Rice lingered. Chen approached her with a questioning look. There's something else, isn't there, Commander? Rice hesitated. The quantum folding technology. There's another application the Meridians shared with me personally, something not in the official briefings. Chen raised an eyebrow. Go on. They call it the quantum shadow. Theoretically, it could mask our energy signatures, making our ships virtually invisible to hegemony sensors. Combined with the Concordia Protocol, she let the implication hang in the air. You're talking about directly striking their command ships, Chen realized. A decapitation strategy. It would give the Meridians a fighting chance, Rice said, and potentially save millions of lives, on both sides, by ending this quickly. Chen considered the enormity of what she was proposing. It was audacious, risky, and entirely characteristic of Elena Reyes. Included in your operational plan, he finally said. But Elena, come back alive. That's an order. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. I'll do my best, Admiral. As she left to prepare, Chen turned back to the main display where the Meridian distress signal continued to play on loop. The decision had been made. Earth would not abandon its allies, no matter the cost. And the hegemony was about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating humanity's resolve. In the preparation bay of the UES Defiant, Commander Reyes addressed her hand-picked crew, 80 men and women who had volunteered for what might well be a one-way mission. The odds are against us, she told them honestly. The hegemony fleet is larger, more advanced, and they have the tactical advantage. But they've made one critical mistake. She paused, meeting the eyes of her crew. They believe that by destroying our friends, they can intimidate us into submission. They've calculated everything except the human spirit. The crew stood straighter, determination evident in their faces. The Meridians trusted us with their friendship, their knowledge, and their future, Rice continued. Now they've paid for that trust with their blood. We will show the hegemony. We will show the entire galaxy that Earth stands by its allies. That humans fight not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot fight for themselves. She checked the chronometer. Launch was in 30 minutes. Make your final preparations. Say what needs to be said to your loved ones. When we emerge from the quantum fold, we'll be facing overwhelming odds. But remember this, throughout history, it has never been the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. As her crew dispersed to their stations, Ray stepped into her private quarters for one last moment of reflection. On her desk sat a small crystal, a gift from Thala during her last visit to Earth. It caught the light, fracturing it into a spectrum of colors. "We're coming," she whispered to the absent ambassador. "Hold on." The Defiant's engines hummed to life, the experimental quantum fold drive creating a distinctive resonance throughout the ship. As they prepared to make the leap that would take them into the heart of a massacre, Rise knew that whatever happened next would change the course of human history forever. The future of two species now rested on one small ship and the audacity of its mission. The hegemony believed they were teaching the galaxy a lesson about power. Humanity was about to teach them a lesson about loyalty. Humanity's vengeance. The UEA's Defiant emerged from quantum space with a flash of cerulean light, immediately engaging its stealth systems. Commander Elena Reyes gripped her command chair as the ship's structural integrity alarms briefly screamed before being silenced. "Damage report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the violent transition. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew over the tactical console. Quantum drive at 43% efficiency. Hull integrity at 92%. All weapons systems operational. Sensors. "Coming online now, Commander." Park hesitated, his expression darkening. "It's worse than we anticipated." The main view screen flickered to life, and a collective gasp swept through the bridge. Meridian Prime's once pristine atmosphere was choked with ash clouds. Massive hegemony battlecruisers hung in low orbit, methodically bombarding the surface. The crystalline cities that had once refracted sunlight like massive jewels were now shattered ruins. "Life signs?" Rise asked, dreading the answer. Communications Officer Dias shook her head. "Scattered and faint. Population centers have been hit hardest." She paused, adjusting her equipment. "Wait, I'm picking up a concentrated group of survivors in the southern hemisphere. They've established some kind of shielded bunker in the Crystal Mountains." Rise leaned forward. "Can you establish contact?" "Attempting now, but there's heavy interference from the bombardment." After several tense moments, a familiar face appeared on screen, though barely recognizable through static and what appeared to be burn wounds. "This is Ambassador Thala of Meridian Prime," the voice crackled. "Identify yourself." "Ambassador, this is Commander Elena Reyes of the UES Defiant. We received your distress call. Earth stands with Meridian Prime." Thala's four arms moved in a gesture of profound relief. "Commander Reyes, we feared no one would come. The hegemony controls all jump points. How did you?" "We have our ways, Ambassador. What's your situation?" "Desperate. We have approximately 10,000 survivors in these caverns, all that remains of the capital's population. Our planetary defense grid is destroyed. The hegemony is systematically eliminating all resistance." "What about your government?" "The High Council." Thala's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of deep Meridian distress. "First Counselor Nerif and most of the leadership were killed in the initial strike. I am the highest-ranking official remaining." "Hold position, Ambassador. Help is coming. The main Earth fleet will arrive within 3 days." "We may not have 3 days, Commander. The hegemony has deployed ground forces to eliminate survivors, and they're bringing planet cracker weapons into orbit." Reyes exchanged glances with her tactical officer. Planet crackers were forbidden by every major galactic treaty, weapons capable of shattering a world's crust and rendering it permanently uninhabitable. Understood. Will act immediately. Stand by for extraction coordinates. As the transmission ended, Rice turned to her crew. Options. Strategic Officer Quan stepped forward. The Hegemony fleet consists of 23 capital ships and approximately 50 support vessels. Their flagship, the Indomitable, is coordinating the assault from high orbit. She highlighted a massive dagger-shaped vessel on the tactical display. All orders appear to be flowing from there. And the planet crackers. 2 vessels on the far side of the planet. They're still in preparation phase, probably 12 hours from deployment. Rice studied the display, her mind racing through possibilities. The quantum shadow technology, is it online? Yes, Commander, confirmed Chief Engineer Ozzy. But it's untested in combat conditions, and it will put significant strain on our already damaged drive. How long will it hold? Conservatively, 4 hours. After that, the quantum field will destabilize. 4 hours against an entire fleet. Not impossible, but close. Rice made her decision. Here's the plan. We'll deploy the Concordia Protocol mines strategically around the Hegemony fleet, focusing on their communication relays. When activated, they'll temporarily disable their quantum communications and targeting systems. During that window, we'll extract as many survivors as possible and strike directly at the Indomitable. Strike with what? Lieutenant Park asked. Even with their systems compromised, their point defenses would shred us before we got close. Rice smiled grimly. Not if they can't see us coming. She turned to OC. How quickly can you modify our shuttle drones to carry tactical warheads? The engineer considered. 2 hours, maybe less, but they'd need to be manually piloted to evade countermeasures. I'll pilot the lead drone myself, Rice stated. Commander, Park protested. That's an order, Lieutenant. She cut him off. Strategic Officer Quan will have command while I'm deployed. Begin preparations immediately. As the bridge crew dispersed to their tasks, Rice opened a secure channel to Admiral Chen back on Earth. The situation is critical, she reported. We're implementing Operation Quantum Shadow ahead of schedule. Request that the main fleet advance their timeline if possible. Chen's expression was grave. We're pushing the engines to their limits, Helena. But we're still 67 hours out at best. Are you certain this is the only way? If we don't act now, there won't be a Meridian Prime to save, she replied. And Admiral, if this goes sideways, make sure they remember why we came. They will, Chen promised. Good hunting, Commander. 3 hours later, Commander Rice sat in the cockpit of a modified shuttle drone, running final checks on its systems. The small craft had been stripped of all non-essential components to make room for its deadly payload, a quantum-linked warhead designed to bypass conventional shields. Commander, OC's voice came through her headset. The Concordia mines are in position. Quantum shadow technology is at maximum efficacy, but you have a 3-hour window, no more. Understood, Rice replied. Begin the countdown. Throughout the Meridian system, the hidden Concordia mines activated simultaneously. For a brief instant, nothing seemed to happen. Then chaos erupted across the Hegemony fleet. Ships lost power, drifting helplessly. Communication arrays went silent. Targeting systems failed. On the bridge of the Defiant, Quan gave the order. Deploy rescue shuttles to the coordinates provided by Ambassador Thala. All other vessels maintain quantum shadow protection and prepare to support the commander's strike. Rice launched her shuttle alongside 5 others, each piloted by volunteers. Under the cover of the quantum shadow technology, they were virtually invisible to hegemony sensors, appearing, at most, as minor sensor ghosts that would be attributed to battle damage. As she approached the massive form of the Indomitable, Rice could see the ship's crew scrambling to restore systems. The Concordia Protocol had worked even better than expected. But it wouldn't last. "Strike team, maintain formation," she instructed her pilots. "Remember, we need to hit the command center and the main power conduits simultaneously for maximum effect." "Commander," came a panicked transmission from the Defiant. "We're detecting energy signatures consistent with the planet crackers activating. They must have independent power systems." Reyes made a split-second decision. "Santiago, Harper, divert to the planet cracker vessels. The rest of us will continue to the Indomitable." The two shuttles peeled away, adjusting course toward the far side of the planet, where the forbidden weapons were preparing to fire. As Rice closed on her target, she noticed hegemony systems beginning to come back online. The window was closing faster than anticipated. "All units, accelerate to attack speed. We may not get a second chance." Her shuttle surged forward, followed closely by the others. The Indomitable's point defenses began to track them, firing blindly into space as their sensors struggled to get a clean lock. "Impact in 30 seconds, Rise announced. "Arm warheads." The shuttle's small cabin filled with the glow of activated quantum warheads. One direct hit would be enough to cripple the hegemony flagship, if they could get close enough. Point defense fire intensified, catching one of the trailing shuttles. It exploded in a brief, brilliant flash. 20 seconds, Rise continued, adjusting course to avoid the growing storm of defensive fire. Another shuttle vanished from her sensors. 10 seconds. The Indomitable loomed impossibly large in her viewport now, its gunmetal hull scarred from previous conflicts. Somewhere in that massive structure was the commander who had ordered the genocide of the Meridian people. 5 seconds. A blast rocked her shuttle, sending it spinning. Warning lights flashed across her console. "Systems critical. Stabilizers offline. Manual control only," the computer informed her calmly. Reyes gripped the controls, fighting to keep the shuttle on target. The Indomitable's bridge section was directly ahead, a heavily armored protrusion near the ship's bow. "Impact in 3, 2, 1. She closed her eyes, thinking of Earth, of the Meridians, of all that was at stake. The world exploded in light and sound. On the Defiance bridge, Quan watched in horror as the commander's shuttle disappeared from sensors, followed by a massive explosion that tore through the Indomitable's command structure. "Commander Reyes," she called desperately. "Commander, respond." The Hegemony flagship listed in space, secondary explosions rippling along its length. At the same moment, reports came in from the other strike team. "Planet crackers neutralized," Santiago's weary voice announced. "Harper didn't make it." Quan closed her eyes briefly, honoring the sacrifice. "And the commander?" Silence filled the channel. "Unknown," Santiago finally replied. There was too much interference at impact. Before Quan could respond, a new transmission cut through the chaos from the surface of Meridian Prime. "Defiant, this is Ambassador Thola. The Hegemony ground forces are in disarray. Their command structure appears to have collapsed. We're coming out of hiding to counterattack." Quan straightened in her command chair. "Ambassador, we have extraction shuttles en route to your position. The Hegemony fleet is crippled but not destroyed." "We will not abandon our world," Thala replied firmly. "Not after what they've done. Not while we can still fight. Your shuttles can evacuate our children and wounded, but every able-bodied Meridian is taking up arms." The tactical display showed the remaining Hegemony ships falling into confusion, many already breaking orbit without central command. The strike had worked better than they could have hoped. "Tactical, target any ships attempting to regroup," Quan ordered. "Prioritize those nearest to civilian areas." As the Defiant moved to engage, a small blip appeared on sensors, a life pod ejecting from the wreckage of the Indomitable. "Get me a lock on that pod," Quan demanded. Moments later, a familiar voice crackled through the static. "Defiant, this is Commander Reyes. Mission accomplished. Requesting pickup, and you might want to hurry. I've got company." Relief swept through the bridge, followed immediately by renewed determination. Their commander was alive, and the tide had turned. Over the next hour, the Defiant coordinated with Meridian resistance fighters to eliminate remaining hegemony ground forces. When Reyes was safely recovered, injured but alive, she resumed command, directing the ship's efforts with the same calm precision that had characterized the initial strike. By the time the first vessels of Earth's main fleet arrived 2 days later, having pushed their engines well beyond safety limits, the battle for Meridian Prime was effectively over. The hegemony forces had been routed, their leadership decapitated, their forbidden weapons destroyed. Admiral Chen stood with Commander Reyes and Ambassador Thala on a hillside overlooking what remained of the capital city. The crystalline structures lay in ruins, but already Meridian survivors were beginning the process of rebuilding. The cost was terrible, Thala said softly, her scales reflecting the sunset. Billions dead. Cities that stood for millennia, destroyed in hours. But you survived, Reyes reminded her. Your people survived. And now the galaxy knows that attacking Earth's allies comes with consequences. Chen nodded. The Hegemony Council has already sent representatives requesting peace talks. They're claiming the attack was the work of a rogue admiral. Convenient, Reyes commented dryly. Indeed, but it gives them a way to back down without losing face completely. Chen turned to Thala. We'll be stationing a permanent defense fleet in the Meridian system. This will never happen again. Thala performed the formal Meridian gesture of gratitude, a complex movement of all 4 arms that symbolized eternal connection. When we first encountered humans, many on the Council feared your species. Your adaptability, your determination, your willingness to take risks that other species would consider insane. She looked at Reyes. Now I understand that those same qualities make you the most loyal allies in the galaxy. As they watched the sun set over the devastated landscape, a group of Meridian children approached, carrying small crystalline structures they had salvaged from the ruins. They presented them to the human officers, a traditional symbol of rebirth and new beginnings. From the ashes of betrayal, Thala said, a stronger alliance is born. Chen accepted the crystal with appropriate solemnity. Earth and Meridian Prime, today and always. In the weeks that followed, joint human-Meridian teams worked to rebuild critical infrastructure. The experimental technologies that had saved the day, quantum folding, the Shadow Protocol, and the Concordia mines, became the foundation for new defensive systems. Ambassador Thala found her there, standing in silent contemplation. Having regrets, Commander? She asked gently. Reyes shook her head. No regrets. Only determination that their sacrifice not be in vain. It won't be, Thala assured her. The Meridian people will never forget what Earth did for us. What you did for us. It wasn't enough, Reyes said softly. We should have been faster, should have seen the threat coming. No species can see all ends, Thala replied, her voice tinged with the wisdom of her long-lived race. But when the moment came to choose, Earth chose to stand with us against impossible odds. That choice defines you more than any victory or defeat. As the sun set on Meridian Prime once more, the lights of reconstruction vehicles twinkled across the landscape like early stars. Life would return. Cities would rise again. And above it all, Earth ships would stand guard, a constant reminder that some bonds transcend mere alliances of convenience. Humanity had proven itself not just as a force to be reckoned with, but as a friend worth having. In a galaxy often defined by cold calculations of power and advantage, it was perhaps the most revolutionary statement of all.